a sad thing. Even recently, I think from the United Kingdom and the British throne, Kate and William, the Cambridges, they apologized in Jamaica when they realized that they were being refused and there was apology necessary. I think Prince Charles is the one that apologized. But, you know, enslavement, and I don't call it slavery, we weren't slaves, we were enslaved. Enslavement was brought upon us, and we are not responsible for the behaviors today. So what has to happen really and truly, they have to apologize. You know, the US put in some sort of mechanism for enslavement, stating that, you know, they'll do other things rather than pay reparations. But could they ever pay us enough for the damage that has been done? Our culture, our languages, you know, our families, you know, blending us with Europeans, all these things took place. You know, when you check our DNA, we have a little of this and a little of that and a little of that, a little of every single thing, but we don't have all of us, you know. Was that nice? Was it humane to do something to us like that? And yet still today, we are still having racism. So therefore, the anti-racism bill has to come through at some point in time before, you know, this century, this, you know, 100 years ago, so that we can say, you know what, we didn't ask for it. And it started with the Portuguese. They are the ones that started this, you know, they sent so many of our children, our ancestors, our brothers and sisters to Brazil, you know. So when you have 12 million, it could be 14 million even in that. And the history of enslavement is starting in 1526 when they had the first voyage to Brazil. And we have to note this history, that our children must be aware that we're not here by choice. Our ancestors are forced, and we are the descendants, and we have to address it because it's an issue with us. Every other nation complains about what has been done to them, all the atrocities, and we seem to be afraid to come up and say, you know what, this has been done to us. What are we going to do about it globally? Not in little spots here, there, and everywhere. It has to be something that we have solidarity, you know, with, from our ancestral homes and from all those others who are our sympathizers as well. So I have put my little piece in. And also to know that 2,000 years, people have been forced into enslavement. And I'm not just talking about our people, but we had the longest span. We were the first one, but you had the Europeans as well. Australia was built on all the criminals that the UK didn't want. We don't even know who came to Canada. We don't even know who came to Brazil, you know, in terms of you know, the type of people, you know, what is the background? We have no idea. Yet still, our men and women suffer the people that had plantations and their wives and their children, and then the slave masters having sex with the enslaved woman. Do you think she'll ever like us? Think about it. She'll always have a grudge on her shoulder. There's always going to be something on her shoulder against us because her husband preferred to have a relationship outside of their marriage with someone who has been enslaved. That had plantations. And we are women, and we feel pain. We know pain. We have emotions, and these things take a lot of toll on us. So I have opened the window for today as we celebrate this anniversary. And it's not a celebration because it's something to cry about. It's something to be sad about. It's something to be disgusted about. So as we talk about this anniversary, I know from Africa, I think someone wrote something. Let me see if I can pull it up and repeat what he said. Okay, African editorial. Okay. So, let me see who wrote it out. Okay, from the African Peace Forum, they said, today, along with the United Nations, we pay a tribute to victims of human rights violation and those who have lost their lives in the fight to promote human rights for all. We recognize the important work and values of Archbishop Oscar Amolfo Romero of El Salvador, who was assassinated on March 24, 1980, after denouncing human rights violations and defending the principles of protecting lives, promoting human dignity, and opposing violence. We iterate the importance of the right to truth and justice. Happy International Day for the right to the truth concerning gross human rights violations and for the dignity of victims from all of us at African Peace Magazine. Another one I want to read for you is, this one is from, okay, who sent this one? The same magazine sent it. The International Day of Remembrance of Victims of Slavery and Transatlantic Slave Trade is observed annually on March the 25th to honor and remember those who suffered and died as a result of slavery. And I always say enslavement because we're enslaved. The day also serves to raise awareness of risk of prejudice and racism. Slavery is theft, theft of a life, theft of work, any property or produce, theft even of the children a slave might have born. And that was said by Kevin Bales. Slavery took a lot from the world. From prehistoric times to the present, slavery has spanned various civilizations, nations, and religions. Its victims have all hailed from a wide range of ethnic and religious backgrounds. Enslaved peoples' social, economic, and legal circumstances have varied dramatically, throughout different slavery systems and time periods. Slavery in the modern era refers to the systemic exploitation of others for personal or commercial gain. Modern slavery is all around us, although it is typically hidden from view. People can become caught in the process of creating our clothes, serving our meals, selecting our crops, laboring in factories, or working as cooks, cleaners, or nannies in our home. And that's also from the African Peace Magazine. It calls out the mental risk involved in the act of slavery to commemorate with the significance of this day. So I open the floor so that we can all jump in. We have Genesis with us, so we have a young view of what's taking place in her time. We have Minister Texman Warren and Minister Merle Fleming. So who is going to be the first? Jump in.
So
and I've dressed
last night
to represent my people.
I know. I have the red to that dress. I'm sorry I didn't go and change and put it on.
Oh, let me show you the whole of me.
Yes, I have the red to it. Oh my goodness. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous.
I'm blessed to do this for this day. It's important to my heritage, my culture, my children, my grandchildren, and their children to come, because we all have that DNA in us. Amen. Sorry. Forgive me.
That's okay. It's okay. I watched this African movie last night. If I know we were going to talk about this today, I would have tried to pay more attention.
It's the Spirit of God in you. You had to watch it.
This movie, it shows the king married to this woman and she became the queen. But onto her ancestors, they were enslaved. And because of that, a lot of kings and queens has been removed. So now his children, now his first son, have to be crowned the prince, to become the king. They couldn't crown him because he came from an ancestor group of people. I can't remember the word that they use because they say it in their language, like the curse. So they call them the curse.
Mm.
So when he go to crown him, like all the thunders and everything rolled and it was crazy. And then he said, "What was that?" And he jumped. And then the other older man come in, and he says, "Because your lineage of your children from your wife is a curse, we
Hmm.
cannot crown him prince." So
Did
this,
it speak about the curse? What type of curse it was?
yeah, our people was rooted out from Africa and enslaved in other countries. And then I said, "But that's different. I've never heard that." And so now, in order for him to break that curse, he's asking the gods of his time now to remove the curse and bless them because it was not their fault. So he's asking the gods of the nation to bless them. And indeed, so happened by they praying, they call a whole set of pastors and they begin to pray and bind the curse that North America. Hear me, okay? I'm in the Caribbean. Right away, I took myself out of North America. Hear me? I'm innocent. I'm in the Caribbean. And then he said that's why when most of them come back now, they are ridiculed. They accepted, but they still sit on that ridiculed line. So what they did there last night was to ask God to remove that ancestral curse.
Hmm.
Because in North America, they become the curse. But in their country, they are not the curse. But he couldn't crown his son because his son, from the wife side of the family, she was the curse. And then
Mm.
they remove it, and the pastors and them
They should
praying,
they
and the
should have
bell.
realized by crossing the ocean and going back to the land, the curse was broken.
So the pastors and them prayed, and the curse was broken. So as soon as they put on the crown on
Hmm.
him, it was a relief, and the prince began to is the prince to call him? No, the king. He began
Hmm.
to cry and ask God and thank God for removing it because when we travel out, we don't know what take us out and what they did to us. But we
Hmm.
coming back to Africa with this curse, and this is the curse that we bring in. We're not purging ourselves because we're supposed to purge ourselves before we go back there. But we just go back there and accept it. This is our country, but it's not. And it was so sad
Hmm.
to see that they never really accept us
Hmm.
as Africans.
I agree with what you said. Yeah, I'll tell you what happened. I was going to university, and one day after one of my courses, my subjects I was taking, I was walking along the road to the library, and this African guy says this is what he said to me: "Good morning." And this was tone. So I was like, I jumped, you know. I said, "Hi." He said, "Where are you from?" I said, "I am from Trinidad and Tobago." He says, "Oh, you are a transplant." I said, "What? No, I'm not.
They don't
Transplant
accept
what?"
us.
He called me a transplant.
Hmm. I was shocked last night. I cried.
Well, I was shocked then. I was like, I went to my class and I'm like, a transplant? What does he mean by that? So I finally, eventually, I spoke to a couple of people from Africa and realized that because we were sent away, whatever they put into their minds, and this is what they have the idea that we are disconnected from them, we're not part of them, and until they start, really letting people understand this, it is something that we didn't want. So that's how it was. It was
You
just,
break up for a while.
yeah,
So
I know they're doing something in this building for the past few days and the internet is unstable. Sorry about that.
that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm having the same problem too here. So
Minister Merrill.
just hear you.
Good morning, all. How are you?
Morning.
Good. Growing up in Trinidad, it was quite different. You're not hearing me? Are you hearing me?
I'm hearing you.
Okay.
What is Pastor Daphne saying?
No,
She's not
no,
hearing me?
because of our internet being unstable, I wasn't hearing you.
Okay, are you hearing now?
Yes, I am. Yes, yes.
Okay, so growing up in Trinidad was quite different, quite different being Black. Being Black and growing up among the white people was quite different because I lived in close proximity to them. Like our house would be, like our house was one house away from where the white people live. So we were on the Black side and the white people were on the white side, separated by a savanna. I was fortunate enough to go to the same school with them, only because the priests thought that I was able to fit in with those group of kids from knowing all my catechism and everything. So he got me to start off going to St. Gabriel's, because all my other sisters went to the Anglican school, and going to St. Gabriel's was a very difficult thing for us, many of us. We were met with lots of racism. My friends still talk about it, from our teachers right back when we had to write common entrance, different things. The white children were put in places. So when I wrote GCE, one of the subjects that I wrote was doing Black history, West Indian history. And my history teacher, after I wrote the exam, he came out to me and he said, what question did you do? Tell me you did not do number 5. And I said, I did. And he said, I hope you know that you failed your GC. And I go, why would you say that? He said, because I know you're going to talk how you feel. You don't, which I did. And that year I did fail my GC, because it was very hard for me as a young girl to separate my present condition, knowing that we were brighter than the white kids. We were brighter. We could not get, if you're not very light skinned and white, it was very difficult for you to get a nursing job, to work in the bank.
Yep.
It was difficult for my color, or even anybody, even a light skin, could get in the bank. You had to be white and all of those. So it was very difficult for me growing up. One of the things that I know is that I marched in Black Power uprising and got in trouble with my mom because I was so young. So it's a lot of stuff with us, like with me particular, knowing all about it. Being in Canada, I read a lot about it. My own kids did a lot of history. I took my children on a journey, the Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
We did that tour with my children. We also went to Detroit. And in Detroit is where this whole slavery thing came alive.
Yes.
Because I took my kids, the last leg was the museum.
Yes.
In Detroit. And in Detroit, they really have a slave trade.
Yep.
They have the slave ship. They have the people, real bodies, not alive bodies, but how they make it out of the molds, and how they were sandwiched and how they were packed, and knowing that all of us came up and we were not allowed to keep our language. We weren't, everything, every part of our heritage was taken away from us. Even the food that we eat was taken away. And I could only go back and equate it with the East Indians that came down from India. Because, they were, one was indentured servants. So one worked, I think the Indians worked in the homes and we worked in the field because we were more
stronger.
We were stronger. And the Indian people were able to keep their language.
Mhm.
The Indian people were able to wear their clothes where we were not given that privilege. So those kind of stuff, growing up and knowing those kind of stuff really affected me throughout. And then when I came over to Canada, it was different.
Yeah.
I came to Canada and I, as a person, used to feel myself below the white people because of growing up in Trinidad. However, like I came here when I'm 18, right? So therefore, my sister would say, go and sit a test for the government. I go, I write a test, and I pass. Nobody buttered my color. I got a job in Attorney General overnight. Like that was a big thing to me, right? Because I'm treated differently in this country than in Trinidad, right? So that was one. And then the way how you got promotion and different things, right? I saw racism very subtle in this country,
Yes.
not straight in your face, right? So I did not see a lot of that. So I actually forgot all about the slavery and everything living in Canada until I had my own son that started doing Black history. Like, and he would come and bring all the things back and all the questions. So I didn't know much about the American slavery and stuff like that in Canada. So, but I shared with him what I know from the West Indies, right? But my son was into knowing all about this one. So, but I understand a lot about the slavery and us not having any form of culture. And I have received from where African people, those that I went about, treated me the same because they were out of their country for years too. So I got treated by most of my African friends, very nicely. I don't have that complaint because we all were out of the country. They were out for many years. And then they also, the ones that's here, they came directly from Africa. They did not lose their language, their food, their nothing, because they were able to keep it. But the slave people lost everything. And I always compare it with the Indians, where they did not lose. And that's my say on that.
And it's very sad that the governments don't pay attention to these key elements of our lives. I left Trinidad very young, so I went back to Trinidad the year that they had Black Power. It was just after it. I think it was 1970. And I went back to Trinidad and I spent a month in Trinidad. But the thing is, I was not open to a lot of these things because my godmother was the principal of the school I attended. One of my uncles, he was the principal of another school in Pleasantville. So, in terms of the racism, where I live in my area, we were a mixed community. It was a new community because my grandfather and my dad worked with Texaco and British Petroleum. So the area we live in was quite mixed. But when you go to the bank, that's my observation was all the tellers were white. And I couldn't figure it out, until I traveled a couple of times back and forth and realized, I said, but I'm in Canada, and then it sort of come back to me. We talk about it at home, and I realized and say, oh my God, slavery is really bad because I cannot say that I had any racism in a blatant ones, but I'm aware of all of it that's taking place. But because my grandfather worked at Texaco, dad, and they were in Forest Reserve, we were sort of part of the mix of people, around. The area that I lived in, Monrepo, it was like there's two different parts to it. There were those who would disenfranchise, and the government had housing for them, and then there was those with the houses where I lived, you know. So we sort of intermixed. There were Chinese, Indians, whites, some from Venezuela. So it was a mix, but I'm quite aware of how racist the Caribbean has been to its very own people, even after enslavement. It is so wrong. It is so wrong. And it would my only huge incident with racism was when I met that man at university, and I felt really bad. And I said I had to get back to him when I get myself, because my anger was still in me over the fact that you call me a transplant. I am not transplanted from nowhere. I have a mother, I have a father, and I know what my ancestry is. So on that note, it's a sour and a bitter note, but I give thanks to God that He has blessed me and taken me from there. He has given me His word and kept me up till this moment that I am speaking. I give thanks and grateful for that. So Ebony, Genesis.
Hi, sorry, I was like talking and like the mic was off on our side. But concerning this whole conversation, I guess I grew up in like, the normal school system. So I went to the Catholic school system, which has its own issues. And growing up in that, it's like the only time we would talk about my heritage as a Black person and being Black and even just being someone that's from the Caribbean. We'd only talk about that during February, Black History Month. That's it, and I think my parents, for putting me around people like my auntie Aita, who owns a different book list, who made sure that I had like that right education about where I come from and who I am and what my past is, what my ancestors went through. And not even just that, but I feel like a lot of the times we focus on Black people being slaves and not enough before that. Because you have to remember, when we were kings and queens, we were people who had empires. We owned so many different things. We were running the world at one point. You know what I mean? We were travelers. We were kind. We were generous. We helped people to learn different things. And one thing, Auntie Aita, she made a book called Matthew DaCosta about one of the first Black travelers, you know what I mean? And from Africa. And I didn't even know about him. All I knew was slavery, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and it's like, that's not it. And if you're teaching like our children that they're gonna just think, we were just a whole bunch of people that were just sitting around doing nothing in Africa, and then one day we just got picked up by the white man and brought over on a ship. You know what I mean? And it's like, if we don't teach our kids, like, there's a point where we were traveling, like the name European, that's not from a white man. A Black man went to Europe with the name, that was his name. It was something like that. And that's how the European became European. So that's how Europe became Europe, because of a Black man. Not a lot of people say that. Another thing too, in Greek mythology, all the way from ancient Greek and Greek mythology, their gods and goddesses like Athena, Zeus, Poseidon, all of them, they need them after Black people. Mm-hmm. Like, so when you see the statues, a lot of them have like curly hair. A lot of them have, that's why they're so curvy. That's why they have certain features that like you see on a Black woman. You know what I mean? It's because they were made after Black people. And not a lot of people think that. Well, of course, because they didn't have like that type of material at the time to like paint and do that stuff until like Michelangelo and whatever. But it's like, we have to teach our kids that we had a prime even before slavery, even before all of that. And
yeah,
I feel like if we allow, I guess, society and the system to continue to rewire our brains to make us think that we're less than, we're going to be less than.
That's right. I agree. I definitely agree. I think our history should be Black History Month, and it's not just Black, but it should be in the curriculum for us. If they're doing some other subject, they give us an opportunity to go and study about ourselves, you know. So there's that period that we can use for Black history. Every day of the year, we need to use it once a week so that we would have that self-pride and also realize how rich our culture is, the richness of a culture, what Africa has, how everything that we have in the West almost come down to our cell phones, the cobalt they use in the cell phones, the diamonds, the golds, the best of the best, you find them in Africa. You know, we have to do a list of what's taking place in Africa. And as we speak, I'm trying to get some information coming back to me, you know, as to different places. I do get some videos from different platforms that they introduce me to tell me where this is coming from. I see pictures of different things. And I think it's something that I would like to, I'd like us to gather as a community in the West so that we have those facilities and even go to the government. We need to get a student exchange for our children to go to Africa and spend some time there, you know, one semester, you know, a month in a semester in Africa is going to make a big change to a child's, you know, self-esteem and, you know, what they have in the thoughts of themselves, you know, and there's, you know, so these are some of the important things that we have to do. And, you know, if we don't take it by the you know, pull the bull by the horns, then we're sitting just talking about, oh, Africa. It's no point wearing the African garb like I am, and we're not doing anything to bring the culture right to us. When you look at some places in Africa, like Zambia and Uganda, there's an area in that part of Africa where the Nile runs, and it's like four corners, but each corner borders Namibia, and there's a bridge that stands over all of it, but it's not connected. But it's the most beautiful thing to see. So when your children and ourselves, we see where we actually came from and what it's all about, then we have that point of, you know, some chain link to the motherland and the continent. How many children know that Africa is one of the largest continents in the world? You know, how many of them know what is produced in Africa? You know, when you look at the markets, I look at pictures they send me of the markets. I mean, I look at the food, I'm like, wow, this is so amazing. When you go to the Caribbean, we're excited about the food, but their markets are so huge and there's so much. Then when you look at the fabrics that they create,
Yes.
I came back and realized some of these large and very, very accomplished designers have gone to Africa and taken a lot of what we do, what our people do there. Table that this look at this guy, this one, that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I would love to get some of these things just to have them in a local museum in a place like Toronto, where when summertime comes, you go to the art gallery, you go to the RUM, but there's also the Black African Museum where you can see so much, you know. Let us bring it from slavery, right? You know, from leaving to enslavement to the Caribbean and back to North America, where many of us are. That way, we at least will be influenced, we'll have that influence and pass it down to our children. Look how many generations we have lost because
I think
their self-esteem has been lost.
The museum in Detroit starts right from the bottom, where they have the slavery, and you go right up to present.
Yes,
what have been accomplished, and that's in Detroit. I just want to ask Genesis, the name of the book that she said somebody had given her to read?
From Ita Sadhu, a different book list.
Yes. So the name of the book is Matthew DaCosta, First to Arrive.
Matthew DaCosta?
It's a children's book.
Canada. He was in Montreal.
I just like to have things because I always give my grandchildren book to read.
Mm.
So I just want to have that. And another thing that what I always tell Pastor Daphne is in each dispensation of time,
Mhm.
like at once it was the Romans that was on top, the Spaniards.
Mhm.
Now it's the Americans. But I always tell her that the day would come
When we all
where
got-
Africa will come on top. And she said, when? I said, the same way how everybody have a time. If you
Yes.
go back and we read, the Greek was up, the Romans and everybody, there would be a time that Africa will be back on top.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
As it moves,
one
you
thing
know,
that I
because I
hope-
can't wait, you know, I can't wait. I want it to happen in my time, God willing. Or in my
Well, a lot is
What
happening in
is
our
that?
time. As I said, a lot has happened during our time.
Yes, it
I'm
has.
blessed to be living in this present time.
Yeah, it's a
You
blessed,
know,
it's a
yeah.
blessed dispensation.
We had to walk for miles to get to a library, to be able to see anything on Africa, or even to get a book when we grew up, right? Now everybody, a flick of a finger, could
Yes.
see what Africa have, what chat all over the world has, you know?
And you know, it makes me proud because I said, oh, well, we have cell phones and they're using the cobalt from Africa, you know, with the chip and everything like that inside. So at least they are still dependent on us. We haven't risen back to you know, to that glory, but at least we realize the realization that there are many innovations that we've had, you know, us coming back in different ways. When you look at I have had pictures of children creating backhoe out of wood. So it tells you how innovative our people have been. What about the guy? He did a television without electricity recently. Or, you know, there's another one. They just did a bus and a car, a vehicle without any, it's crazy, you know? So I'll have to get all of those things because I told them, I said, please, I need to put together some stuff for me and bring it so we can use it for Black History Month and share it around, because we need to figure out what they're doing, because they have a lot. As soon as they do innovation, somebody comes from outside in Europe and they come and they take it away from them. They buy it and call it their own. And we have to stop doing that. You created it, it is your own, it has to be patented, you know, put in place and remain that way. If it's made in America or made in, but whoever that innovation comes from must get that acknowledgement of it, you know. So that's good.
One thing that I wish when coming to Black history, that we as a people would learn just to calm down, because sometimes we come out with such lawlessness and such aggression that we cause the other side to see and to treat us indifferent. I live here and I go all over the map, all over Canada. I'm in every white people backyard in their house just saying hi. Because you as a Black woman, you know the pride that we come from. You know where we come from, kings and queens. There's no need like to come down and be so
Yeah,
wash
but
out there.
what is the
And
percentage? I'm looking at percentages because
yeah,
I'm sure it's a very slim percentage behave that way. And
if you
Exactly.
watch them,
I will
if you
not,
watch
I will,
them march,
I
if
listen to,
you watch them on Black History Day, when they were talking about the racism and they was marching in the states,
oh, I mean,
and the
Black
way
Lives
they,
Matter.
yeah, and the way
Was
they
that for Black Lives Matter?
Yeah, and the way they carry themselves is like, you see, that's what the people is looking at us for. The aggressiveness. All black people is aggressive. All black people is this.
Yeah, but you
But
know
if
what? But that is actually saying I am, because of this group of people, everybody is under the same umbrella. I am not.
that's what they
I
put
am not. But at the same time, it is something Black American has to be educated about. Black Americans, listen, they have suffered a lot more than everybody else
And
out there,
they are still suffering.
and they're still going through. Let me tell you, listen to me. I have traveled through the years. I went through border, and the guy said to me one day, years ago, in 1960, 68, I was going through I went to New York to see my aunt, and the guy said to me, he says, "Where you from?" I said, "I came from Canada, but via Trinidad and Tobago." He said, "Oh, you're different." And it didn't dawn on me until I was returning from my trip, because I spent 3 weeks with my aunt, and I'm in the US and I'm talking. If I go in places and they hear my voice and an American guy comes along with me, another Black American, immediately they look at me as, "You're not American, are you?" "No." And it's fine. So they actually look at the both of us and realize there's chalk and cheese there. No, there's no chalk and cheese. We are brothers. You oppress them. You hold them back. There will be aggression. I understand it. I understand the aggression, because in the first place, what divides me from you? Only the color of my skin. Everything else about me is the same makeup as you, and the texture of my hair. So basically is this. You have to realize Americans had to open their mouths in order to be heard. They
And they
really
still have,
suffered. If you go to the South, Alabama, and those places, you got to see the life. And if you hear from them when they tell, listen, 4 years ago, I was in San Diego. I went to a conference. We went through North Carolina. In North Carolina, Black people are still saying, "Yes, sir. No, sir.
yeah.
No, ma'am." It is 2020. Hello, Jesus. You got to
Yes,
do
yeah.
something, Papa. No, it is so wrong to have those people in that type of subjection in the 20th, and now we're in the 21st century. It is wrong. It is radically wrong. It's biblically wrong. It's humanly wrong. My rights for my people have been taken, and they've been subjected to a lot of things. So you have to sympathize with your people and try and get those. You meet out there, Mr. Tex. Listen to me, Sister Tex. You have to pray for them. We know what prayer changes things. We have
fighting fire with fire.
No, we're not fighting fire with no fire. We're fighting fire with the word of God, which is have not. If you want fire to come down, that fire will come down.
Blacks
so
in America.
My audience today, I'm a Black woman.
I'm asking a question. As a Black woman in America, fighting fire with fire does not bring results. What it does, it brings more escalation.
No. They fought in a up to a point, but in order to fight with fire in America, they brought it to the forefront of the media, where it was hidden in the dark. When you go to the bank, they redline you. They don't give you a loan. There's a dividing area for each for the place that you live. It's out here in Canada as well. But we have, like Minister Merle said, our racism is subtle. It's underneath. They will employ you, but they will try to not give you that development that you need to move to the next level. That
Unless you say, "May the best man win."
Exactly. So
yeah, but I know this part with America, even though you have, like, you really have to fight. Look what's happening with the judge right now.
Look at Ketanji. Ketanji is having the time of her life. Look at her resume.
And we have to be
Yes, it
constantly
is
praying
second
for her.
to none. Even the presidents, past presidents, realize where this wonderful, magnificent, well-educated, well-versed woman that could pull up archives
In her head.
without
She's
even
doing it.
having to look in a book. Hello, Jesus.
Uh-huh.
This thing,
It's all in
God
her
has
brain.
given it to her.
Mm-hmm. Yet
And
still she's being
no man will
scrutinized.
take it from her. You understand? No, Minister Tex, I love you with the love of the Lord, that agape love. But when it comes to my people, don't do us wrong. It's time for this nonsense to end. Don't do it subtly. Don't do it periodical. Just leave us and give us what belongs to us. Because we've built it. We've built up the West. We've built up from the Caribbean back up. And, it's time to be fair and skirt everybody else.
That's why I love the way how she's fighting.
Of course. And you know what she's doing it? Even when Ted Cruz from Texas, he invited her to his office, to think that he could come back and tell and hold on to her and cause her to break. How could you break what God has already put together like steel? Hello,
Who
Jesus.
did he bless? He blessed her.
He blessed her.
Yeah.
She is blessed. And I hope to be able to go and see some of the ending today, because I need to follow it up. Listen to me. You don't know me.
That is one of the things that I applaud, is the way how she's fighting.
You have with grace.
She's not going out of character. She's just giving them because she knows who she is. And that's what I'm saying. If we understand who we are and the power that lies within us, we can conquer things.
We can operate the same way. We can operate.
But when you're going based on nonsense that they tell us and you have to, it doesn't make sense. Just calm down, beat them at the same level, and we can conquer things. But it's when you go the extra mile that does not make sense to me. That's all.
Yeah, but if they don't know that way, and it's the only way they know, it's the only way they know, then you realize there is a problem. There is a divide. There's a big vacuum there that they have to fill that void. You understand? So that's the major thing that's happening right now.
I just want to say something. America is so different to Canada.
Merle, just give me a second. Joseph is asking Daphne a question. A question for Pastor Daphne. Do you think Black people that born in the US should be called African American?
Listen, it's the only name they know, Joseph. They came to the Americas. They came to Virginia. This is where the ships stopped and they transported them to the South. So they have to use what they have. And they call, listen, how many centuries, 400 years in America, what are you going to call yourself? Not American? My ancestors from Trinidad and Tobago originally, as I was born in Trinidad and Tobago. I'm a Trinidadian. It's an island. And bless God that he gave each of us warm places to live in. Mighty God, away from the motherland, So the thing about it is we have to understand, we have to work with what we have. It's up to Black Americans to decide whether or not they want. You see, they've been there so many generations. They don't want to remove themselves because it's your birthplace. But you're part of the bigger picture, which is the motherland. So I am a Trinidadian Canadian. Okay, Joseph?
Okay.
Genesis, we didn't even give you time.
It's okay. You guys were getting into it. I was like, I don't want to interrupt the flow that's happening.
We have to get your feedback because
Minister Ball was asking a question.
You're the baby in this. You're the baby in this one.
I mean, what can I really say? I guess concerning it, we have to take back like our identities. We have to take back who we are. We can't let people name us anymore.
That's
you know,
right.
I you don't hear like white Americans say I'm European American.
No.
I know for Ghana, they said to me, my Ghanaian friends said to me, you were born on, the day you were born on is the day that they give you your name.
Yes, that's true.
And I know I have a Ghanaian name, but please, I hope they're not listening for them to realize I forget the name they give me.
But yeah, I feel like, it's like you have to take back your identity.
Yes, I think it's important that governments realize that we have our country, we have a continent, and each of us should be able to add even the day that we were born as our name or whatever from that area of Africa, something that will identify us as part of the motherland.
And even just like, just like branch off a little bit, like even like when it comes to like cultural appropriation, I feel like that the reason why in the Black community, why it's such a big problem, why it's such like a big concern to us, even down to like people getting cornrows and stuff, is because we had our culture stripped from us. We had our we had bloodlines taken away. We had people who were killed, and we don't have the sort of the amount of history that you have, we don't have. So when we make our own culture and we make our own trends and we make our own fashion statements and we make our own traditions, and you come and you take that, it's like you're taking away what we've made in order to feel comfortable, in order to feel at home, in order to feel like actual human beings with a past. And that's why it's such a big problem. And I feel like a lot of people who do culture appropriate don't get that. You have to understand, like, a white person can, type up on ancestry.com, and probably find out their lineage all the way from like past slavery. You know what I mean? But like for me, the farthest I could probably get to is slavery, and it's like even past that, God only knows.
Yeah, because we were blended. We were blended.
Exactly.
And so we, instead of saying I am from Cameroon and I am from Nigeria and I'm from Ghana, when they go into our DNA, they find white. Like for mine, I have Welsh, I have African, I have West, I have East, I have Central in me. So which one am I going to pick? So I tell you, there's 5 days in a week, and I could choose one for each day and one for being out in the West.
It's like, that's the thing. It's like you never know where you're from. Like, and it's like that whole mix of that whole blend can it's like that's why we have our own cultures. And it's like when people appropriate that, people try to they don't take it unconsciously. Yeah.
Listen, Dennis, someone asked me years ago when I was doing a show, and I said, "So what?" He said, "So what do you mix with?" I said, "I have what you call world appeal." It was a white guy. He almost fainted. He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Hey, I'm African, Chinese, Indian, Spanish, white, and a few different parts of the different tribes. So what you call me? I'm right there. I am at the top. I am the creme de la creme." Because I am proud of who I am. I keep saying, hey, well, if you want to mix with me, well, you came to the best mix. But guess what? At the end of the day, you cannot take it all away, because no matter what you put in me, I remain who I am, who I was born to be. That's that right. African woman, that woman that civilization began with. Amen.
Yep.
So that's what we have to work through, ladies of Community Dateline. We have to make sure that our history is documented so that we have it in a museum somewhere in Canada. And I'm going to look at places and spaces that we can get some information to do that. So if it starts from Gemfm, hey, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Any last words, Minister Merle? Because guess what? We're running into Minister Text time. She'll soon send her dogs, her hungs behind us. Minister,
Oh, I just said embrace our identity. Like, we have to teach our grandkids just to embrace it, even from the way they do their hair. When we came, we quick to go and straighten and everything, right?
and
And then when the Afro came back, we were so thankful. And like now, we could put all the different hair creams in our grandkids' hair and let their hair become just beautiful without permanent or putting any chemicals in it for them.
Exactly.
And it's just like, embrace our Blackness, take care of your skin and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one last note for me is this. People of African descent, stop using things to get your skin light. If it's going to be light, it will get light.
Say it again.
That's ourselves. You're taking away the melanin that everybody else wants.
And proud. Say it again.
You're the only one with natural melanin. And you all are fighting yourself to say my color. I look at some of these African women and see how they're taking the needles and the this and the that and the other. So let's get away from that.
Amen.
Love yourself.
Let it go.
I love myself.
Yeah.
So have a great day.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
And we'll see you at the next time.
Amen.
Bye, Genesis. Thank you so much.
Bye, guys. Love you.
Have a great day of recalling that we were enslaved. No, we are not slaves. Amen.
We are enslaved.
That's enslaved.
Enslave us.
Yes. Bye for now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, Jen. Love you.
For the greenest grass will wither, but your love is never changing. You remain the same, unchanged. So let us not forget you, Yeshua. Never to offend you, Yeshua. Oh, my soul will bless you, Yeshua. Let us not forget you, never to offend you. Oh, my soul will bless you, Yeshua. There's a standard lifted high. Hear the sound of generations, many tribes and different cultures, together for one purpose, like one heart and one mind. Together in synergy, we make our boast in the Lord. A declaration says, we're not ashamed of the gospel.
We're not ashamed to live by faith. We're standing forward saying,
we're not ashamed of the gospel. We're not ashamed to live by faith. We will proclaim we're not ashamed. We're not ashamed. Not ashamed. There's a banner across the sky. Give a song to all the people, told to be silent. We are not forgotten.
our home is built on a solid foundation.
So we make our boast in the Lord. Our declaration says, we're not ashamed of the gospel. We're not ashamed to live by faith. We're standing for, we're saying, we're not ashamed of the gospel. We're not ashamed to live by faith. We will. We're not ashamed. 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 So let us lift up our voices unto the Lord. Unto the ends of the earth. And let's take a bold declaration of children of Zion. So to be heard. Say we're not ashamed. We're not ashamed of the gospel. We're not ashamed. We're standing forward saying, not ashamed,
Not ashamed,
not ashamed,
not ashamed,
not ashamed,
not ashamed.
not ashamed.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Just think of the sunlight in the day and the moonlight in the night. Fishes are dancing in the rivers rolling by. There is still a blue sky until another baby cry. I wonder why some people sigh. Oh yeah, life goes on. Life goes on, life goes on, 'cause every day another baby's born. Oh no, another loving to be defined. Sweet, sweet memories on my mind. We gotta take some time, cease from war, the killing and crime. Oh, life goes on. Life goes on, life goes on, 'cause every day another baby's born. Oh well, just think of the life that you can live and the things that you can give. Remember every day to think positive and live. Life goes on. Life goes on, life goes on, 'cause every day another baby's born. Oh well, and if you don't have the money to go to the party, and even if you can't afford the latest style, for every good thing in life gotta take some time. Life goes on, life goes on, life goes on, 'cause every day another baby's born. Love the moon, love the star. Yes, love is happiness when you're feeling sad. Love the moon and love the star. Yes, love is happiness when you're feeling sad. Yeah, life goes on. Life goes on, life goes on, 'cause every day another baby's born. Another mountain we must climb.